Hello everyone, how are you all doing? It's been a pretty horrendous week for the world, and for me personally, health-wise, it hasn't been that great either. I did a video last week, and right after doing that video, I started getting ill, and it turned out I have two illnesses on top of one another that just knocked me for a loop, and I was out. I was just off my feet. And thankfully, I'm feeling a little better today, much better. And I wanted to come and show you my haul. Um, as some of you know, I went to Europe last month and I caught COVID. And it kind of spoiled some of my vacation, but not enough that I didn't get to go to the Shakespeare and Company and bring you a haul. It's not a big haul. I had to get rid of a lot of my luggage because it was like 100 plus degrees, and we were dragging around a suitcase, and I started leaving stuff. Oh, I don't need this. Let's see if someone in the apartment building can use this. So anyway, I didn't buy a lot of books when I went to Shakespeare and Company, but I have a few gems here that I wanted to share with you. You know what I love about Shakespeare and Company in Paris, besides that it's in Paris? They always have books that have something to do with France. And it's hard to find sometimes those similar books in the United States or in other countries maybe, I don't know. But I found one gem for me. I also bought books for other people. So let me start with the first book. And it's a book. A lot of these books are books that I don't usually pick out because they're not usually books that I read. But okay, the first one is the Friday Night Knitting Club. And that's a contemporary book. And I don't read many contemporary books, though I read more than I used to. And I have a few on my shelf that are to be read. So this was a used book that was in the front of the Shakespeare and Company. They have used books that are like in bins in the front. And for some reason, this caught my eye. I have a good friend who knits. You know who you are. And I wanted to know more about it. So what is it about? It says, casting on. It starts almost by accident. The women who buy their knitting needles and wool from George's store linger for advice, for a coffee, for a chat, and before they know it, every Friday night is knitting night. So then what happens? Okay, finding a pattern. And as the needles clack and the garments grow, the conversation moves on from patterns and yarn to life, love, and everything. These women are of different ages, from different backgrounds, and facing different problems, but they are drawn together by threads of affection that prove as durable as the sweaters they knit. Yeah, I mean, it's not like saying, read me now, but I heard about this on booktube, by the way. So when I saw this, I said, I'm gonna get this. And it's not expensive. Not to say that Shakespeare and Company is cheap, because it's not. But they did put the Shakespeare and Company stamp. They always ask you if you want it. And I always say yes. Because why not, right? So the second book I bought for my daughter, because her favorite book growing up, and even now, was by Nancy Garden. And it was called, what was it called? Amy on My Mind? It's not Amy. Anyway, it was about lesbian love. And this book is also a young adult book. It's Annie on My Mind, not Amy. Annie on My Mind. Okay, so, and I read it and I liked it, by the way, Annie on My Mind. This is called, this I heard on BookTube a lot, and it's The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic Schools by Sonora Reyes. And I have to say I read this already. I'm not going to give you a review right now, but it's good. I bought it for my daughter who's lesbian. Let me just say that. But I read it because it really spoke to me. And this is another book that I don't read many young adult books anymore. I used to read young adult books, even though they weren't called young adult in the 50s. They were just called books. They were just called fiction. The only kinds of young adult books, and they weren't young adult, were fairy tales that I read. And they were children's books. And then I went right to the teenage books. I think they were called teenage books, but I could be wrong. Anyway, listen to this. If this doesn't grab you. 16-year-old Yamilet Flores prefers to be known for her killer eyeliner, not for being one of the only Mexican kids at her new, mostly white, very rich Catholic school. But at least here no one knows she's gay, and Yami intends to keep it that way. So they have a quote here, and it said, "At least now I'll know to keep my mouth shut about my crushes. This time I'll be stealthy gay, like Kristen Stewart." Isn't that cute? So what happens is she's outed by her crush, an ex-best friend, before transferring to a Catholic school, Slayton Catholic. And she has new priorities: keep her brother out of trouble, make her mom proud, and most importantly, don't fall in love. And now it says it's hard to fake being straight when Bo, the only openly queer girl at school, is so annoyingly perfect. I don't want to, like I said, review it, except I want to say something that I really liked about this book is that it's very specific, and you know that the author, and I heard a lot. I watched a lot of videos where she was talking about this book and how it came to be and her Mexican upbringing. And I'm Puerto Rican and Jewish, but I'm Puerto Rican, so I knew just by being Puerto Rican that this was specific, very accurate, Spanish. She doesn't translate every Spanish word. I love that. Unless it's overdone, and then the reader would lose the meaning of what was being said. And that happened in a movie that I saw, which I could be prejudiced against. It was the new West Side Story, and my daughter loved it, the new West Side Story, and I didn't. And one thing I didn't like about it, even though I understood the Spanish, especially the Puerto Rican Spanish, was that I thought that was too much for people to really, who don't speak Spanish, to understand. That was only one thing I didn't like about it. But this is done this author is very smart. Let me say that. And I think my daughter is going to love this book because I read it all the way through. And like I said, I'm not a young adult reader in general. Though, like I said, I read Annie on My Mind and really enjoyed it. And I'm really getting more into it. But yeah, and I got this at Shakespeare and Company. So yeah. Then I have, well, I'm going to save the one that's for me. But this one was bought by my partner. And it's called BS Jobs. Yeah, it's not that I don't curse in real life, but I don't want to curse on a camera. So, but this is I thought this would be over my head. He's very smart, my partner Jackson. But it's called The Rise of Pointless Work and What We Can Do About It by David Graeber. And I started reading it when I got ill because all I could do was lay on my back and not do anything. And it's very smart, maybe too smart for me. But I had to just tell you what he says are the 5 types of BS jobs. And one is what flunkies do, number 1. So flunky jobs are those that exist only or primarily to make someone else look or feel important. We know what those jobs are. So, he's an anthropologist, so he goes into feudal retainers, but he's also very funny. And it says you cannot be magnificent without an entourage. So these are the people that are hired to make other people look good. And I'm not going to really get into that because I want to just talk about, he calls it old-fashioned feudal-style retainer jobs still do exist. And he calls it concierge in one of, like a fancy building is one of those jobs. But I'm not going to, like I said, go into it in detail. So the other one, and I won't go into it, is what goons do. The use of this term is, of course, metaphorical. I'm not using it to mean actual gangsters or other forms of hired muscle. Rather, I'm referring to people whose jobs have an aggressive element, but crucially, who exist only because other people employ them. So he said the most obvious example of this are national armed forces. Countries need armies only because other countries have armies. I don't know about that, but interesting. But that's, come to think of it, if other countries didn't have armies, what would we really need an army? Maybe. Third is duct tapers. And I won't go into that because it goes into, it says duct tapers are employees whose jobs exist only because of a glitch or fault in the organization, who are there to solve a problem that ought not to exist. So, yeah, but it's really rich, I'm telling you. And the number 4 one, and the one that I put a holder on, is box tickers. I think I've had a few of the box tickers jobs. I'm using the term box tickers to refer to employees who exist only or primarily to allow an organization to be able to claim it's doing something that, in fact, it's not doing. The following testimony is from a woman hired to coordinate leisure activities in a care home. So Betsy says, most of my job was to interview residents and fill out a recreation form that listed their preferences. That form was then logged on a computer and promptly forgotten about forever. The paper form was also kept in a binder for some reason. Completion of the forms was by far the most important part of my job in the eyes of my boss, and I would catch hell if I got behind on them. A lot of the times I would complete a form for a short-term resident they would check out the next day. I threw away mountains of papers. The interviews mostly just annoyed the residents, as they knew it was just BS paperwork and no one was going to care about the individual preferences. So the most miserable thing about box ticking jobs is that the employee is usually aware that not only does the box ticking exercise do nothing towards accomplishing its ostensible purpose, it actually undermines it, since it diverts time and resources away from the purpose itself. So here Betsy was aware that the time she spent processing forms about how residents might wish to be entertained was time not spent entertaining them. Think about that. She did manage to engage in some leisure activities with the residents. Fortunately, I was able to play the piano for the residents before dinner, and that was a beautiful time with singing, smiling, and tears. But as so often in such situations, there was a sense that these moments were indulgences granted her as a reward for carrying out her primary duties, which consisted of the filling out and proper disposition of forms. So in a way, it's also a flunky position too. And I've gone on for a book I haven't read, right? And let me see. And the fifth is taskmasters. And they fall into two categories. Those which role consists of assigning work to others. Oh my goodness. This job can be considered BS if the taskmaster herself believes there is no need for her intervention, and that if she were not there, underlings would be perfectly capable of carrying out by themselves. Whereas the first variety is merely useless, the second variety does actual harm. These are the taskmasters whose primarily role is to create BS tasks for others to do, to supervise BS, or even to create entirely new BS jobs. Maybe I've gone a little bit too much on a book I haven't read and that really my partner is reading, but it is very funny, but it's terrifying. It says, hilarious and thought-provoking, a provocative, funny, and engaging book that claims the world has been engulfed by a rising tide of pointless work. Taps into one of the big anxieties of work. Is this something you'd be interested in? Because I think I'm going to read it. Okay, so what is the last book? The book that I actually bought for myself. This is by Hadley Freeman, and it's called House of Glass, The Story and Secrets of a 20th Century Jewish Family. Now, why I bought this and why I love Shakespeare and Company so much is because they always bring to me books on the sort of, not the Holocaust, but of Jewish experiences in Europe with a French twist. And this is a book I never would have thought I would like. Well, I haven't started it yet, because it's a family saga about the story and secrets of a 20th century Jewish family. And so what is it about? To Hadley, much of her French grandmother's life was a mystery, but after Sala Glass died, she discovered a shoebox filled with her grandmother's treasured belongings. By piercing together letters, photos, and an unpublished memoir, Hadley brings to life the full story of Sala and her three siblings, Alex, the fashion couturier and a friend of Dior and Chagall, trusting and brave Jacques, a fierce patriot for his adopted country, and the brilliant André, who hid in occupied France. Each of them make extraordinary bids for survival during the Second World War. It's a deeply moving memoir following the siblings throughout the course of the 20th century. House of Glass is a story of courage, sacrifice, assimilation, identity, and home. And, I haven't read it yet. With everything going on, I didn't think I could really get into a book like this at this moment. But just to show you the table of contents, it has the Glass family, the Glass siblings, immigration, Henri, assimilation, Jacques, passivity, Alex, defiance, Sarah, immigration, Bill, America, Andre and Sonia, denounced. And it has a family tree. These usually put me off of books, but in this case, in this book, I'm so getting used to reading it. So in the first page, I did read the first page, and Sala is eating lunch in Deauville under Alex Ornstein's umbrella, And the way she talks about her grandmother is that beside, having all her secrets that she found out later, here she is 5 years old and meeting her grandmother for the first time. No, not meeting her. I don't think she's meeting her grandmother. But they all go to France. And her grandmother is with her Hermes scarves, and she's really very French. And yeah, I love that, to see the French, everything French in this book. I'm into France, what can I tell you? And to also have the Holocaust brought to life. It says here also that the House of Glass triggers that same shock of recognition that comes with colorized film, black and white history flooded with bright detail, human warmth. It opens the door onto the past, and its light spills sharply across the present. And it says also in another place that it's an original book, and I love books that are original in some way. They say there's nothing new under the sun. But if something has something starkly original about it, that's going to catch my attention. So, it's not a big haul that I brought you today, but I hope that you find something that interested you in some of these books. Like I said, it's been a horrendous week. I'm still trying to find a very good friend of mine in Israel. Trying to reconnect with her, though she's not in that area. And I know that all my fellow Jewish friends and the world, cares about what happened. And I hope that there's peace in the world for everyone, because without peace, there is no life. And I don't want to cry, but I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and please like my video. My likes have gone down a lot, and I know that is my fault for not making more videos, but it's pretty disheartening. So give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And until we meet again, and in better circumstances, I'll be healthy. I am so grateful that I got well. There was a period this week that I went to emergency twice, and not to mention all the televisits I've had, and I didn't know what was going on, because when two illnesses are kind of coming together, even the doctors can't figure out exactly what's going on. But I feel good today, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for so many things. So until we meet again, I'm Marilyn, also known as Maya. And as always, aloha.